Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. Smackdown tonight was from the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, while Rampage was taped from the Charleston Coliseum and Convention Center in Charleston, West Virginia. And Smackdown tonight, this was their 1200th show, and it was a solid show tonight. We had the continuation of the first round match in the Women's Tag Team Championship Tournament, where it was Natalya and Sonya Deville versus Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, and they end up replacing Nikita Lyons and Zoe Starks. From what I understand, Zoe Starks is injured, and who knows about Nikita Lyons? You know, I read something online that, she's not vaxxed, so she couldn't come to, couldn't cross the border. So that's what I read. I don't know if that's true or not. But we saw that tonight. We also had a face-off between the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, and Drew McIntyre. We saw a fatal five-way match where the winner will face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at Clash at the Castle. So it was Sheamus, Ricochet, Madcap Moss, Happy Corbin, and Sami Zayn. And then we saw Liv Morgan versus Shotzi. So that was SmackDown tonight. Overall, solid show it was. But you guys know that I didn't do a Dynamite review on Wednesday, and for the first hour, I was at work, but heard that the first hour was good, where we had CM Punk end up coming out, and he ended up addressing the fans. And then, from what I heard, he kind of went off script, and he was talking about Hangman Adam Page. And so there's this whole thing going on. It's not very good with CM Punk. So, that's what I read online. But tuned in the second hour where I saw Toni Storm versus Kylie King. It was like the last 30 minutes of the show. So Toni Storm ended up winning the match. And then I saw the main event, which was the Trios Tag Team Championship tournament match, where it was Andrade El Idolo, Dragon Lee, and his brother Roosh. And they ended up taking on the Young Bucks. And of course, Kenny Omega ended up returning, which we all knew, he was going to return and team with the Bucks. So it was a great return for Kenny Omega. The crowd popped for him loudly. And he didn't come alone. Of course, he came out with Don Callis and Michael Nakazawa. And it was a good match. But obviously predictable because the Bucks and Omega end up winning. And then when I saw when Dynamite went off the air, Kenny Omega then ended up addressing the crowd. And then I also saw Andrade El Idolo and Roosh. They end up attacking Dragon Lee. They ripped off Dragon Lee's mask, and they played that clip on Rampage tonight. So they played that little clip of that. But obviously predictable that Omega and the Bucks were winning. But anyways, let's jump right in with the SmackDown review. So SmackDown opened up tonight from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Hot crowd it was throughout the night. So the show opened up with Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey made her way through the crowd. She ended up walking past the commentary table, and she got in the ring. She then got on the mic, and she ended up saying that she paid her fine last week, and that she isn't leaving until Adam Pearce reinstates her. So she called Adam Pearce down to the ring, and the crowd was cheering Ronda on. Big pop for Ronda tonight in Montreal. So Adam Pearce then came out with security. Pearce ended up saying that he can't lift Ronda's suspension because she wants him to, because it's above his pay grade. He ended up saying that he gets that she's upset. Adam Pearce ends up knowing that Ronda is upset. But Adam Pearce ended up saying that Ronda can't hijack the show. So Pearce then ended up asking Ronda to leave the ring peacefully. The crowd was starting to chant, "We want Ronda." And Ronda ended up telling Adam Pearce not to make her choose violence. So we had two of the security guards end up getting in the ring. Ronda ended up taking both of them down with a forearm and a hip toss. And we had the other two security guys come in, and Ronda ended up taking them down. She ended up locking in the armbar on one of the security guys. And Pearce then called police officers down to the ring. So they end up arresting Ronda. So they end up escorting Ronda away. We saw Ronda being put into the back of a cop car, and it was driven off. One of the cops was a female, and I don't know about you guys, did this female cop look like Sonya Deville's twin? It had the same, features, face features a little bit. I'm like, is this Sonya Deville's long-lost sister? I swear, this female officer looked a little like Sonya Deville. So the cop car end up leaving, and then we see a black van pull up. It was like a GMC. And the driver ended up getting out of the car, and he opened up the door. And it was revealed that the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, was in there. So Roman was on the show tonight, of course, to have a face-off with Drew McIntyre. But anyways, that was that. Ronda, still suspended. She wants to be reinstated, but Adam Pearce, wouldn't allow it. There's going to be more of Ronda just coming into the arena, telling Adam Pearce to lift her suspension. And then we had the first match of the night, which was the first round match for the Women's Tag Team Championship. This was the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament. So it was Sonya Deville and Natalya versus Toxic Attraction from NXT. Toxic Attraction, JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. And this was originally supposed to be Nikita Lyons and Zoe Starks. But apparently Zoe Starks got injured. Nikita Lyons, who knows why, she couldn't be there. From what I heard, from what I said earlier, I read online saying that, Nikita Lyons is not vaccinated, so she couldn't cross the border because of that. I don't know. That's what I read. I don't think it's 100% true. But I'd rather see Toxic Attraction than Nikita Lyons and Zoe Starks. I mean, they're entertaining. They're solid in the ring, but I'm a fan of Toxic Attraction. I like JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. Mandy Rose, of course, also, part of Toxic Attraction. I have to say that they are the best, group down there in NXT. And I think Toxic Attraction is going to go all the way and, become, hopefully, maybe the Women's Tag Team Champions. Because they are two-time NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. But this was very meh match in my opinion. Oh, and also we saw Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. They were in the crowd. They were sitting ringside. And we just hear Bayley saying, "Oh, Michael Cole, how you doing?" Like that. And she was like, "Ding dong." So we saw all three of them sitting there. Sonya Deville and Natalya then end up heading to the ring. And then Toxic Attraction then end up coming out. And then we saw a video, of them hyping Toxic Attraction, showing what they do down there in NXT 2.0. So, and they didn't show, Mandy Rose there. It was just in the video, just Gigi Dolan and Jacy Jayne. So the match started off with Gigi Dolan and Natalya. Of course, Natalya in Canada, she got a big pop from the crowd. Of course, because she's from Canada. So Dolan and Natalya started off. They end up locking up. Dolan ended up sending Natalya down to the mat, and Natalya ended up rolling Dolan up. Dolan kicked out, and Natalya tagged in Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville delivered a shoulder tackle to Dolan, and she followed up with a spear. Dolan then ended up pinning a forearm to Sonya Deville, but Sonya Deville ended up firing back with a forearm of her own to Dolan. So Jacy Jayne ended up tagging in. She knocked Sonya Deville down to the mat. Sonya Deville ended up sending Jacy Jayne's head into the top turnbuckle. And then Jayne ended up sending Sonya Deville into the ring post, shoulder first. Sonya Deville was then knocked to the outside as Jacy Jayne ended up delivering a cannonball to Sonya Deville off the apron, which was cool. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Sonya Deville and Gigi Dolan were going as. Sonya Deville had Dolan in a submission. Dolan then ended up whipping Sonya Deville into the corner and tagged in Jacy Jayne. Jayne delivered a double knee to Sonya Deville before whipping Sonya Deville into the corner. Jayne delivered a back elbow to Sonya Deville, and then she ended up looking to lock in the sharpshooter. Sonya Deville ended up preventing Jacy Jayne from doing that on her, and Sonya Deville managed to tag in Natalya. Natalya then delivered a side Russian leg sweep, to which she followed up with a suplex and neck breaker to Jacy Jayne. So Natalya then ended up hitting the German suplex and looked to lock in the sharpshooter on Jacy Jayne, but Jacy Jayne ended up blocking it. She tagged in Gigi Dolan. Dolan then delivered a clothesline to Natalya. She ended up going for the cover, and Sonya Deville ended up breaking up the pin. And Jacy Jayne and Sonya Deville started brawling on the outside. Jacy Jayne ended up whipping Sonya Deville into the barricade near Bayley, and Bayley started taunting. Bayley started taunting her. So at the end of the match, Jacy Jayne ended up making the blind tag. Natalya ended up locking in the sharpshooter, and Jacy Jayne ended up rolling up Natalya for the win. So there you go. Toxic Attraction ended up winning the match. So they are moving on in the tournament, which I am happy about. But overall, just a very meh match this was. But happy for Toxic Attraction moving on. But like I said, I'm a fan of Toxic Attraction. And then we went backstage. Sami Zayn ended up entering the Tribal Chiefs locker room. So Reigns ended up asking Sami Zayn how everything is. Sami Zayn ended up saying to Reigns that it's been dicey. Sami ended up telling Roman that Jey Uso has been hard on him over the last few weeks. He ended up saying that he's acting as if he isn't carrying his weight. So Sami Zayn was venting about his frustration to Roman about taking the super kick for him last week, and Reigns ended up agreeing. Reigns ended up asking Sami Zayn why he was talking to him before getting up and walking off. So then Reigns' phone ended up ringing, and it was Jey Uso calling Reigns' phone. Reigns ended up telling Sami Zayn to answer. And Sami Zayn ended up answering Reigns' phone. Sami ended up saying to bring down his voice to Jay, and he will relay his message. Reigns then walked back in. Sami Zayn ended up informing Reigns about what Jey Uso said, saying that there was trouble at the border. So the Usos couldn't cross the border, so they weren't on the show tonight. So Reigns ended up asking Sami Zayn if he's still close with Kevin Owens. To which Sami Zayn was like, oh, well, me and Owens, we go way back. But we haven't, seen each other because, of course, he's on Raw. So Reigns ended up telling Sami Zayn to let Kevin Owens know that he doesn't owe anyone anything ever. Because, of course, on Monday night, we had Kevin Owens saying to the Usos, oh, your tribal chief owes me. So Sami Zayn ended up walking off, and that was that. But overall, this was a good segment here, between Reigns and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn still, trying to be part of the bloodline. And the Usos not appearing on the show tonight because they couldn't cross the border. And then we had the Maximum Male Models. Dear God. So we had Max Dupree, Maxime Dupree, we had Marseille, and Mansois. So Max Dupree was getting ready to talk, but they got interrupted by Hit Row, by B-Fab, Ashante the Adonis, and Top Dollar. So they end up coming in. Max Dupree ended up saying that they have a scheduled appearance. And he ended up saying that Ashante the Adonis and Top Dollar are not maximum male model material. So then both Ashante and Top Dollar end up knocking Marseille and Mansois out of the ring. And they then started rapping, and pretty much that was basically that. But this was awful. This was absolutely fucking awful. Absolutely terrible TV this was. And that rap was so fucking awful. I was at the point where I just wanted to mute the TV. It was fucking bad. And then you had Maxime Dupree liking that and dancing. And then Max Dupree was like, what are you doing? Awful. This whole thing was awful. And you can tell this is how Triple H feels about the maximum male models. Good. Good. Glad that Ashante and Top Dollar end up taking out Marseille and Mansois. Get these maximum male model shit off my TV. Absolutely fucking awful. Can we put them on main event where nobody watches? And then we had Karrion Kross and Scarlett. And Karrion Kross cut a promo. And when you see Karrion Kross, you gotta stop what you're doing and listen to what the guy has to say. Karrion Kross ended up addressing Drew McIntyre. He ended up saying that he is a chosen one, whether he wants to be or not. Kross wanted to say that Roman Reigns is too. And he ended up saying that's where he failed, and that they choose someone else. He ended up saying that he set the table for where he failed. He ended up saying that they were wrong to choose him. So he was addressing both Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. But very good promo this was from Karrion Kross. Like I said, when he shows up on TV, you just gotta listen to what the guy has to say. And then we had the Fatal 5-Way match to determine the number one contender to face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at Clash at the Castle. So it was Sheamus versus Madcap Moss versus Sami Zayn versus Happy Corbin versus Ricochet. And this was the best match of the night. This was a very good match. So Ricochet ended up going straight for Corbin. Sheamus ended up attacking him, and Moss ended up clotheslining him out of the ring. Sami Zayn ended up locking up, and Sami Zayn, right here, he got a big pop from the Montreal crowd because this was, of course, in his hometown, and just the Montreal crowd chanting for Sami Zayn here was absolutely amazing. Really glad that Sami Zayn got that huge pop there, and they were going ole 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 ole, like what they used to do with Sami Zayn down there when he was in NXT. Just brought back memories of when the crowd used to do that for Sami Zayn in NXT, where they used to chant ole, the ole 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 ole, very old school, right there. So Sami Zayn ended up locking up a Ricochet. He delivered a Hurricanrana to Sami Zayn. Corbin delivered a choke slam to Ricochet. Corbin ended up going for the cover. And then all the other guys ended up pulling him off Sami Zayn. Then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had all the guys ended up brawling with one another on the outside. Moss ended up whipping Sheamus into the barricade. Corbin ended up sending Ricochet back into the ring. And he delivered an Irish whip to Ricochet. And he ended up delivering a right hand to Ricochet's face. Moss ended up trying to help Ricochet, but Corbin ended up whipping him into the corner. So Corbin then focused back on Ricochet and delivered a shoulder block. Sheamus then delivered some forearms to Corbin. Corbin countered with a back suplex to Sheamus. Ricochet then ended up hitting a springboard crossbody on Moss, and he ended up following up with another one on Sami Zayn. So Ricochet then delivered a tornado DDT to Sami Zayn, and he followed up with a run shooting star press. Of course, always looks great when Ricochet does the run shooting star press. So Ricochet ended up going for the cover, and Moss ended up kicking out. Moss then delivered a shoulder tackle to Ricochet, and Sheamus then delivered an Irish curse to both Moss and Sami Zayn. Then Sheamus delivered the 10 beats of the Baron to Madcap Moss, and Sheamus then delivered the 10 beats of the Baron to Corbin. And then to Ricochet, Sheamus delivered 16 beats of the Baron to Ricochet. And he ended up tossing Sami Zayn in the ring. And Sheamus was looking to do the same, the 10 beats of the Baron to Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn countered with a stunner, ended up taking Sheamus down. He ended up flying over the top rope. And just Sheamus's knee was just all scratched up. So at the end of the match, Sheamus ended up winning. He delivered the bro kick to Corbin. He ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Sheamus ended up winning the match. Sheamus will get to take on Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at Clash at the Castle. And this was the right move to do. But it's going to be heel versus heel, but I'm suspecting that Sheamus is going to go in as the babyface at Clash at the Castle. But overall, this Fatal 5-Way was the best match of the night. Very good match it was, very entertaining. These guys were good in the match, good wrestling here. But like I said, it was the right move for Sheamus to win the match. And the crowd, behind Sami Zayn here was absolutely great. Whenever, whether it was Ricochet or Corbin or Moss or Sheamus being down on Sami Zayn, the crowd would boo them. So because it's in Sami Zayn's hometown. So, but amazing pop that Sami Zayn got in his hometown. And then we had the Viking Raiders holding a New Day funeral. So the Viking Raiders were there, Eric and Ivar. Fire was burning around them. And we had this woman praying over a picture of the New Day of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. She ended up marking them with a rune on their forehead on Eric and Ivar. And the Viking Raiders end up saying that they respect the New Day as great warriors and heroes. But their time has passed. So the Raiders end up saying that their pride has led them here. And Valhalla awaits them. They end up saying that a great battle awaits the New Day. And the sun will set on them as a new Viking Day emerges. So pretty much that was basically that. But this was a very good video from the Viking Raiders, holding this New Day funeral. It was very well shot, with the fire around them. So I thought it was good. And then we saw Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was backstage with Liv Morgan. Kayla Braxton asked Liv Morgan if she's worried about her match with Shotzi. So Liv Morgan ended up saying that she wouldn't be a good champion without fighting. She ended up saying that Shotzi would probably target her arm, but she's used to having a target on her back, and that she is ready for anything. So then Liv Morgan ended up heading out to the ring. And then we had Kayla Braxton backstage with Shotzi. Shotzi ended up saying to Kayla Braxton that she will rip Liv Morgan's arm from her socket and drive her knee right into her face. So Shotzi ended up saying that agreeing to a match with her was a bad choice and that Liv will pay dearly for it. So then Shotzi ended up making her way down to the ring. And this was a quick match. Liv Morgan ended up delivering some forearms on Shotzi. Liv delivered a kick to Shotzi in the corner. Shotzi fired back with a crossbody to Liv Morgan's back. Shotzi delivered a forearm to Liv Morgan's face before Liv Morgan ended up hitting a missile drop kick to Shotzi. So Shotzi had the upper hand later on. She delivered a German suplex to Liv Morgan. Shotzi ended up calling Morgan a phony. And that's when Liv Morgan ended up delivering the Oblivion on Shotzi. She ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Liv Morgan ended up winning the match. Post-match, Shayna Baszler came out of nowhere. And she ended up attacking Liv Morgan from behind. Shayna Baszler ended up stepping on Liv Morgan's hand. And she ended up saying that she wants to break Liv Morgan's arm so badly. But she will wait until Cardiff. So Shayna Baszler ended up kicking Liv Morgan in the face. And she ended up leaving the ring. And that was that. But overall, this was a quick match. And Shotzi once again taking the loss. So Shayna Baszler just wants to do more damage on Liv Morgan's arm. So then we had Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. They ended up announcing that Ronda has been released from jail because Adam Pearce decided not to press charges. So there you go. We're going to have Ronda still coming into the arena, telling Adam Pearce to reinstate her. And then we had the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Reigns ended up coming down to the ring, and as soon as he got into the ring, a stagehand ended up passing him the mic. So Reigns got on the mic. He ended up telling Montreal to acknowledge him. Reigns ended up saying that he's not on the show every week anymore, and that he wants to set the record straight. Reigns wanted to say that if anyone besides him says they are the face of the company, the main event, or that they carry the company on their back, then they are lying. And he ended up saying that he is the only man who can say he is the face of the company, the main event, and the one that carries the company on his back. And he went on to say that Drew McIntyre is beneath him. And then Drew McIntyre ended up making his way out. So McIntyre got on the mic. He ended up saying that he wants to get straight to it, since Reigns is not always here. McIntyre ended up saying that he will represent the titles the way they deserve, and that Reigns doesn't deserve to be champion. And he ended up saying that Paul Heyman works for him politically, while the Usos work for him physically. So he ended up saying that he sees fear and concern in his eyes, because there is no man that he can't tear apart with his bare hands. So McIntyre ended up saying that he's in the mood for a fight. And so Reigns and McIntyre started brawling, and McIntyre ended up delivering a huge throw to Roman, belly to belly. McIntyre was going to go for the Claymore, and then Sami Zayn, out of nowhere, was in the ring. He pushed Reigns out of the way, and McIntyre hit the Claymore at Sami Zayn. So Reigns was looking to go for the spear. McIntyre then ended up hitting Reigns with the Claymore, and McIntyre ended up holding up the titles. And that was how SmackDown went off the air tonight. But this was a good segment, and Sami Zayn, just shoving Reigns and taking the Claymore from McIntyre. This might be, a sign that WWE is going to turn Sami Zayn into a babyface, where the bloodline is going to be like, oh, Sami Zayn, you failed us. And with that huge pop that Sami got tonight, that's a little preview of when WWE turns Sami Zayn into a babyface. The crowd is going to be behind Sami Zayn 100%. And that was just a little preview. Even though it was in his hometown tonight, that's how the way I see the crowd being once Sami Zayn turns into a babyface. And it should be coming soon. But SmackDown, solid show tonight. Really enjoyed the show. Moving on to AEW Rampage, which Rampage tonight was just a forgettable show tonight. Wasn't a good show, in my opinion. This I felt was a lazy show tonight by AEW. So we saw Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee versus Private Party, AEW World Tag Team Championship on the line. The FTW Championship was on the line, where Hook defended the title against Zack Clayton. Who was Zack Clayton? Some guy from the Jersey Shore. Who watches Jersey Shore? And apparently he's JWoww's husband. Just what we need. An MTV guy on AEW. I was like, when he came out last week, I'm like, who is this fucking jabroni? And then we saw Buddy Matthews versus Serpentico. That was another squash match there. That Hook versus Zack Clayton, that was a squash match. We had Athena versus Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford, she returned last week on Dark Elevation. She's been out, I think, 6 to 8 months with an injury, so she made her return. It was good to see Penelope Ford back. And then we saw in the main event the Best Friends versus the Trustbusters. This was in the Trios Championship tournament. But Rampage, this was a very lazy, forgettable show tonight. Just awful show. So Rampage opened up tonight with Claudio Castagnoli, the Ring of Honor World Champion. He ended up coming out along with Wheeler Yuta. Claudio got on the mic. He ended up saying that it feels great to stand in front of his mentor, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who was sitting at ringside in the front row. And Claudio ended up saying that he would feel more comfortable staying in ring gear to defend his ROH World Championship. Claudio then issued an open challenge for anyone to face him for the ROH World Championship. And then we hear the words, "I will." So out came Dustin Rhodes. Dustin ended up answering Claudio's open challenge. So Dustin ended up saying that he's dreamt of being in Claudio's place for the last 30 years. He ended up saying that it's a dream of his, and if he accepts, then he will give him the best version of himself. He ended up saying that he sees the fire in Claudio's eyes. He ended up saying that if he brings his A game, then he is on. So we had Claudio and Dustin end up shaking hands. Claudio ended up walking off, and that was that. So we're going to be getting that match this Wednesday on Dynamite. It should be a good match there. Claudio versus Dustin Rhodes, ROH World Championship on the line. They're going to deliver. So, this was, a good segment here. And then we had Lexi Nair. Lexi Nair was backstage with Ortiz and Ruby Soho. So, ended up saying that they have been dying to get their hands. Her and Ortiz have been dying to get their hands on Sammy Guevara and Tay Melo. And Ortiz ended up saying that they should do it next week. So we're going to be seeing that next week. Sammy Guevara and Tay Melo versus Ortiz and Ruby Soho. That match should be sponsored by Mellow Yellow. Of course, because of Tay's, last name, Mellow. It just makes me think of Mellow Yellow. That's why I said that match should be sponsored by Mellow Yellow. And then we had the first match of the night. The AEW World Tag Team Championship on the line. Swerve, Strickland, and Keith Lee defend the titles against Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Gwen. And this was a okay match here. We had Isaiah Cassidy delivering some right hands to Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up pushing Isaiah Cassidy down to the mat. Swerve ended up hitting a double stomp off the top onto Isaiah Cassidy, and he tagged in Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up throwing Isaiah Cassidy across the ring, and he delivered a splash in the corner. He ended up throwing Isaiah Cassidy again before he delivered a clothesline to him. Keith Lee ended up going for the cover, and Isaiah Cassidy ended up kicking out. Mark Gwen tagged in. Keith Lee ended up throwing Mark Gwen into the corner, and Keith Lee ended up going for another pin, and Mark Gwen ended up kicking out. Swerve tagged back in, and he delivered a kick to Mark Gwen's head. He ended up going for the cover. Gwen kicked out. Swerve then ended up pinning the JLM driver on Mark Gwen, and he went for the cover, and there you go. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland ended up winning the match. Overall, the match was okay, in my opinion. Wasn't great, wasn't perfect, but it was just okay. And then we had QT Marshall. QT Marshall was playing cards with his boys in the factory, and Powerhouse Hobbs came in. Hobbs ended up flipping the table, and QT ended up saying to Hobbs that they would take care of Ricky Starks. And they didn't. But they will. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we had Hook versus Zack Clayton for the FTW Championship. And we had Zack Clayton end up coming out. And he ended up saying that he is the biggest star at the show. The biggest star, we're all saying, who the fuck are you? Who is this jabroni? A guy from the Jersey Shore. Guy from MTV. And his JWoww's husband. Just what we need on AEW Rampage. So he ended up saying that it's a shame that he has to win the FTW Championship in this cesspool, and that he's going to bring the FTW Championship back to a state that people respect. And that is the Jersey Shore in New Jersey. God awful. And then Hook ended up coming out. He came to the ring. Match started. Squash match. Hook immediately locked in the sleeper on Zack Clayton. And there you go. Hook ended up winning the match. Retaining the FTW Championship. Squash match. Awful. Zack Clayton needs to stay off of TV. Go to AEW Dark. Go there. Or go back to MTV. Why are we having Zack Clayton on AEW Rampage? Tony Khan, can you explain that? What do you see in Zack Clayton? What do you see in him? Look at what we saw. He got beat in 5 seconds by Hook. And this is the best that they got for Hook? To face Zack Clayton for the FTW Championship on the line? Awful. Awful, awful. And then we saw Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. And they were talking about Hook. They ended up saying that the way Hook walks around the company rubs them the wrong way. And they ended up asking, what if the FTW Championship was held by a sports entertainer? So I guess either Menard or Parker wants a shot at Hook for the FTW Championship. I'd rather see Menard and Parker face Hook, either one of those guys for the FTW Championship, over Zack Clayton. And then as Rampage came back from the commercial, Billy Gunn ended up addressing his sons, Austin and Colton. Because on Dynamite on Wednesday, Austin and Colton end up turning their backs on their father. And Billy Gunn ended up saying that he will beat his sons next with his friends. In walked in the Acclaimed. And so there you go. Billy Gunn is back with the Acclaimed. So there you go. And then we had Buddy Matthews versus Serpentico. This was another squash match. Buddy Matthews delivered a drop kick to Serpentico in the corner. And Serpentico rolled out of the ring. Buddy Matthews ended up delivering a knee off the apron to Serpentico. He ended up sending Serpentico into the barricade, tossed him back to the ring, powerbombed Serpentico into the corner. And Buddy Matthews delivered a pump handle slam on Serpentico. And there you go. Buddy Matthews ended up winning the match. Easy win for him. Post-match, Miro ended up heading down to the ring, and he had Malachi Black's mask. And he tossed it. Buddy Matthews and Miro began brawling. Miro ended up tossing Buddy Matthews into the ring steps. And then Julia Hart ended up staring down at Miro. So Miro then delivered a splash to Buddy Matthews in the corner. And he followed up with some stomps. And then he delivered a super kick to Buddy Matthews. So there you go. That was that. Either way, this was a squash match between Buddy Matthews and Serpentico. Might as well change Serpentico's name to Sir Jobico, because he's been jobbing. When was the last match that Serpentico ended up winning? And then we went backstage and we saw Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Jamie Hayter, and Rebel. Baker ended up saying that she wants to watch Thunderstorm unravel. She ended up saying that she can't think of a more toxic team. So she ended up asking Toni Storm if her mind is right and that they will be watching. So pretty much that was basically what the doctor had to say. And then we saw Athena versus Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford ended up returning last week on Dark Elevation. You know, she's been out for, I guess Jericho said, 6 to 8 months. You know, she was out with an injury. And this was just a quick match here. Athena came out, you know, with her wings. So we saw Athena and Penelope Ford end up locking up. Ford knocked Athena down to the mat. She delivered an arm drag. And Penelope Ford ended up looking to go for a springboard back elbow. And Athena ended up catching her. Penelope Ford ended up escaping, ended up sending her into the ropes and delivered a drop kick to Athena's back. And she ended up sending Athena into the apron. And then we saw a Kip Sabian sighting with him with the box on his head. You know, just clapping for his wife. So Penelope Ford then ended up beating Athena down. Athena ended up managing to hit the Eclipse on Penelope Ford. So she ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Athena ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Jade Cargill and the Baddies. They ended up coming out while the Baddies ended up attacking first Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray on Athena. And then Jade Cargill ended up coming out along with Stokely Hathaway. Jade Cargill had a sledgehammer in hand. Maybe Jade Cargill was taking a shot at Triple H because Triple H loves his sledgehammer. So she ended up bashing, you know, Athena's wings, you know, that she wears when she comes out. And then Jade Cargill ended up slamming the sledgehammer, you know, at Athena. And pretty much that was basically that. Main event. The Best Friends versus the Trustbusters. This was the quarterfinals match in the AEW Trios Championship Tournament. And of course, before the match, you had Mark Henry end up interviewing them. You know, Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends and the Trustbusters, Parker Boudreaux, Slim J, Ari Daivari, Sonny Kiss managing them. So, and they were pretty much arguing about who said the line. It's time for the main event. Of course, that belongs to Mark Henry. Mark Henry says it every single week. And then we went to the main event, which the main event was okay, in my opinion, but forgettable. Ari Daivari and Chuck Taylor end up starting it off. Daivari ended up hitting Chuck Taylor from behind. Slim J and Trent Beretta end up tagging in. Beretta delivered a powerbomb to Slim J. He ended up going for the cover. Slim J ended up kicking out. Parker Boudreaux ended up tagging in. He ended up hitting Trent Beretta from behind. You know, Parker Boudreaux, you know, he looks like a young Brock Lesnar. You know, when he was in NXT, he was known as Harland. I think WWE made a mistake on letting Parker Boudreaux go because they could have built him up as the next Brock Lesnar. So I think they dropped the ball on him and they released him. So he's going to succeed. Parker Boudreaux is going to succeed in AEW. Something that he could have done in WWE. So the Trustbusters end up attacking the Best Friends. We had a brawl between them. Boudreaux ended up tossing Trent Beretta back to the ring, and he delivered a right hand to Beretta's midsection. Boudreaux ended up sending Beretta down to the mat, tagged in Slim J. Slim J ended up choking Beretta on the middle rope. Beretta fought back and started delivering some right hands to Slim J's midsection. Beretta ended up delivering a forearm, and he chopped at Slim J. Slim J tagged back in Ari Daivari. Ari Daivari ended up hitting some elbows on Beretta, and Beretta then ended up hitting a forearm to Daivari. Daivari then tagged back in Slim J, and Beretta delivered the half and half on Slim J. So later on, we had Daivari end up making the blind tag. He ended up hitting the frog splash to Orange Cassidy. He ended up going for the cover. Cassidy ended up kicking out. Cassidy then ended up hitting the orange punch. And we had Chucky T and Chuck Beretta ended up sending Parker Boudreaux over the barricade. Orange Cassidy ended up climbing up to the top. Sonny Kiss got involved. And Sonny Kiss knocked Orange Cassidy off the top. Sonny Kiss was looking to check on Parker Boudreaux, and out of nowhere, Danhausen appeared. Danhausen ended up cursing the Trustbusters. So Slim J ended up hitting a diving reverse DDT on Orange Cassidy, and he ended up going for the cover. Orange Cassidy ended up kicking out. Daivari tagged in, and we had the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. They delivered this splash, this nice splash spot here on Slim J for the win. And there you go. The Best Friends ended up winning the match, so they're moving on in the Trios Championship Tournament. Overall, the match was okay, but forgettable, in my opinion. So, I mean, Danhausen appearing and, having the Best Friends win it. Good on Danhausen for doing that. So, but that was Rampage tonight. Forgettable show. It was awful. But anyways, that's it for the SmackDown and AEW Rampage review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.